Hello and welcome back to another multiple victim episode of Sharks Happen. On today's episode we are going to head over to a small island known as Avon, which makes up the small islands that make up the Outer Banks off of North Carolina. The date was Monday, September 3rd of 2001, when Sergei Zoulakaev and his girlfriend Natalia Slobodskaya, 28 and 23 respectively, they went into the water to go swimming. It was a nice day, 77 degrees, 6 o'clock at night. They went in shortly before 6 as they were in the water, maybe 10 minutes. And they hadn't gotten far from shore. They only got 30 to 40 feet out. And when you get to 30 to 40 feet out, there's a channel there. It's about waist deep, and then you hit the channel and it's 6 feet deep. So they're in this 6 foot deep channel now, and it is 6 o'clock in the evening. Natalia mentions that first she felt a bump behind her, so a bump to her backside, and then she felt clamping. She felt what she knew were bites, and 3 of them right away behind her. She just felt 3 bites to her, and she nearsighted. She didn't have her glasses with her, so she never saw what was biting her, and the shark never came to the surface during any of these attacks. The shark had bitten her 3 times, and she said right then that Sergei, who was right next to her, looked and said, "Hey, it's a shark, swim to shore." Now, the 3 of them, like I said, they're only 30 to 40 feet from shore. People are on the beach. They can hear this commotion. They probably most likely hear their screams, but they're not doing anything, thinking that they're playing. They don't know that something's going on out there. They start making their way in, and it's not until they get into the end of the channel and get into the waist deep water that finally the people on shore can see the blood in the water around them, and they go out and they bring them in. Now, what had happened was Natalia talks about how after she's bumped and she's bitten 3 quick times, she could feel that shark. She said the shark was all over us. She could feel it swimming between her legs, going after Sergei. Sergei was attacked shortly after he had screamed for them to go into shore. So for some reason, this shark decided to attack both of them and switch between the 2. She said that they were all over him. She could feel it swim between her legs. She says that she had recurring nightmares. Like I said, she didn't see the shark, but she felt it, and she remembers. She says she'll never forget that sandpaper rough skin going around her legs, through her legs, rubbing against her body. She says it was rough. It's disgusting. And, it's a fish. I don't want that fish rubbing against me either, so I don't blame her. But it was swimming between the 2, going back and forth, biting on the 2, till they finally got into that probably 3 foot area. And then the people were able to come out and get them. Those sharks tend to try to drag people out into the deep. And I always wondered, how deep do they want? Well, it seems 6 feet's fine, because this has to be a bull shark in my mind, and they all think that it's a bull shark too as far as the experts, but I think it is because of the way that it went ahead and just started feeding right there. I think it's not a tiger shark because it would have been more than just what ended up removed from the body, and I don't think a great white is going to worry about 2 different people feeding off of both at the same time. We've gone over enough attacks with the great whites to know that that's not their MO. Maybe a wounded one might act that way, but I don't think that's what happened. I think this is a bull shark, and that's because once they're in the depth that they want to feed, they're just going to feed. They're not worried about. I think that a great white more or less wants to show you their power, lift you out of the water, shake you around. Tiger just wants to take things and go, but a bull shark's going to sit there and eat. And you go back to Marsha Hathaway attack. That was over in Australia, and I think this was the attack that started the netting of the beaches. But she was in waist deep water with her fiance, and she yelled, "Help, I'm bitten by an octopus." That's because of how quick the bull shark is biting. I mean, it's got to be lightning fast for that to happen, for your mind to think you're hit by an octopus, something that can bite you 5 times, 4 times in a matter of maybe a few seconds. That's what I think ends up happening to these people, and it's removal of fresh flesh at the same time. It's crazy what they do. So they get them both in. Now Sergei gets onto the beach, and he is still talking. but it isn't long before he goes into cardiac arrest from losing so much blood. He ended up with his right leg removed below the knee, so it sounds like somewhere in the mid-shin area that his leg was removed on the right leg. And he also had bites to his right leg, lower and upper leg. His buttocks had flesh removal, and I think his hands, almost identical. So what ended up happening, I think, is that he was on the right side, she was on the right side of the shark from behind. He was on the left, because his damage is to the right, hers is to the left. So the shark is kind of turning back and forth, probably doing this damage to them. And it would make sense that one side of the body is done to each of these. But she ended up with her left foot removed, right down by the ankle. She had bites to her lower leg, bites to her upper thigh that had to be skin grafted, and her worst bite, which was a 12-inch diameter bite to her hip and leg and buttocks area, almost down to the bone, and the flesh removed. So she ends up surviving the attack. Unfortunately, Sergei had passed away shortly after paramedics got there. He was already into cardiac arrest when they got there, so there was nothing they could do to save him, and he passes away on the beach. But they do take her to the nearest hospital. They don't have blood to transfuse into her, so they take and fly her to, I think, a hospital in Virginia, where the doctors say that it was shocking that she ended up surviving this attack due to how bad the bites were and how much blood she had lost. She had lost a ton of blood just like Sergei had, and she ends up surviving it. And I'm going to put an update from maybe a few weeks after the attack, but they had already got her leg ready to grafted a bone on there so that they could put an artificial foot on her, and they said she was doing much better than they thought she would do, quicker than they thought they would do. So she ends up surviving a very rough attack. Like I said, they say it's about a 10 to 12 foot bull shark. I would say it's the same thing. Tiger, I would expect it to remove more than just a foot with the bites to the arms and the legs and everything. I would think a arm and a leg, hands would be gone. Bull shark, not necessarily. They're more flesh grabbers than anything that I've seen. Not a lot of amputations from bulls per attack than the other sharks too. So definitely, I think this is a bull, and I think it had plenty of 6 feet. I think is as far as they want to drag you out before they start feeding on you. So if you're going to be eaten by a bull shark, unlike great white that'll grab you and take you wherever they want, it's usually going to be pretty close to shore from where they grabbed you. So that's our attack on both Sergei and Natalia. Just a horrible one. 2 attacks, 2 attempts to predate, 1 fatality. 10 to 12 foot bull shark is most likely, but we don't have evidence on that. And I don't think I have the species down in the attack stats. I might have if I had seen, but I think everybody's guessing just like I am, but I'm just going by what I know from bull shark attacks and how they're not a shark that's going to show himself to you, kind of like the tiger shark that went after Popoff. You did see it in the attack, but great whites usually are going to show people, you're going to see that shark at the top of the water if it's in 6 feet water. So that's why I'm going with the bull shark on this one. We're done with that. Now we got to get into this real quick comment about Thanks Iowa. I forgot to give you the update, a small update on that. I was going through comments 2 days ago. Fishing through the comments, I see a comment about how do I like the weather, and I had responded. I says, 30s and I haven't had to shovel snow. I says, it can't get better. That's the greatest weather you can have in January in Michigan. That night, snow starts falling. I mean, this stuff is falling hard. Started about probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and by about 7 or 8, I was outside shoveling about 4 inches of snow. They had said 1 to 4 inches, but that wasn't the issue. This stuff was heavy. This stuff was the heaviest snow I've ever shoveled. And the reason I said thanks, Iowa, is I've been paying attention to like the election stuff going on. Ron DeSantis is over there, and you guys just got plowed with snow about 2 days before we did. So I'm blaming you for sending your weather over to us. And today we got I went out to have my cigarette this morning. It was 8 degrees. Thank you, Iowa. So that's why I said that about Iowa, and then it'll bring into this one little stupid story. But we go back you go back to markers. I have markers for things that I don't remember. People ask me, have you ever swam in the ocean? I have once, and I know when, but I have to look at this newspaper story to find out when I was there. I was there a couple weeks before the Tampa Bay Bridge was hit by that boat. I think the captain was drunk, and he ran the boat into the bridge, knocking, a car went over, I think a bus went over, a few vehicles went over before people stopped all the other cars from going over, and it happened at night, and I was like just freaked out by that story, like shark attacks. That kind of stuff freaks me out. So that's when I went swimming in the ocean my only time, a couple weeks before that bridge was hit. So now we go back, and I don't know what year it is. We'll have to find out what year this is, but if anybody cares. I'm sitting there, and it's snowing. And I'm looking out the window, and I mean, there's like 5 or 6 inches of snow, and I just have a little snapper snow thrower, little thing just going to toss it. So I have to get out there and take care of this stuff. Snow thrower's like 14 years old or something. And I turned to my wife, I says, that snow thrower's the best thing I ever paid for. It starts up on the first or second pole every time. She's like, well, knock on wood. I said, I don't have to knock on wood. So I go outside, pull twice, thing starts up. I go to use it, and it's not throwing any snow. So I look, and I can see that the cord that pulls tension on the auger is way away from it's slacking this cord away from the handle. So I've wrapped a bunch of damn duct tape, fixes anything. I wrapped a bunch around the handle, trying to build it up to build pressure on that so it would put the pressure to grab and pull. It didn't work. So I ended up shoveling the snow that year. Said that I would just shovel snow. What's the big deal? We got record snow in Michigan that year. So I shoveled record snow that year. I know that I've shoveled snow and didn't use a snow thrower. The whole year we had the worst snow on record. So I have that going for me. That's it for the show. That's the update on what you all missed, which, like I said, wasn't much. I'll be back in a day or two with another attack. And until then, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of them sharks than they are of you.